All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of CO Pod. I'm your host, Caroline, and today I'm joined with a few more friends than usual. So today we are joined by Andrew Nielson, who is a client executive at Infoworks, Chris Mahaffey. Hopefully, I didn't butcher your last name too much. He is the Director of Analytics and Data Visualization at Infoworks. And then by Jason Sain, who is the founder of 1 Degree Consulting. All right, that was a mouthful. I need some water just after saying all of those names. How are you guys doing?
We're doing great.
Yeah, thank you.
Welcome by the means of the internet to Nashville, beautiful Nashville, Tennessee. Here where it's actually raining and it's gross, but typically it's perfect weather in autumn and place where everybody wants to be. And I will shameless plug, I met you and your fearless leader, Lou, when you came into town about 6 weeks ago and had a great time out with you downtown in Nashville, and so encouraged by what you're doing, not only with lumber, but also with construction owners and your podcast. So thanks for including us today. We look forward to an energizing conversation.
Awesome. And I mean, it's kind of hard to not have fun in downtown Nashville, especially when you're with Andrew. So if y'all have the chance to do that, take him up on the offer.
Guys, come and see us. Yes.
Awesome. Well, let's just go ahead and start this off really easy. I'd love if you guys could just give me a little bit of background on yourselves and kind of, your journey to get to where you are. So I'm going to throw this to Jason first, and then we can all just kind of chime in about ourselves after.
Sure. Hey, yeah, thank you for having me, and honored to be here. Graduated from Auburn University in '99. Was a traveling healthcare project manager for a number of years, and over my career, believe it or not, coming up on 25, 26 years, heavy operationally, and with construction technology, construction financials, and even risk mitigation. And I founded 1 Degree Construction Consulting 2 years ago, where I handle essentially just that for subcontractors and general contractors all around the Southeast.
Chris Mahaffey, kind of similar to Jason. I graduated from Vanderbilt University, and while there, I started working with Infoworks under an internship, and that led to a 25-year career with them. Shortly after starting with them, I got into OLAP design and architecture, and grew into data solution architecture. Eventually branched out into data visualizations because so many data projects were failing from an adoption perspective. People were not understanding their data. So no matter how well you built it and plumbed it, it was still not resonating. And as I've worked in that space and brought some of my data management skills to it, we've had a lot of success and been able to position people to take better advantage of their information.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris. And last but not least, Andrew.
Caroline, thank you so much. I am here at Infoworks at our headquarters in Nashville, Tennessee. I came to Infoworks by way of Microsoft and Google, where I was there for 10 years scaling cloud sales teams. My background has been in data, but it has been in geographic information systems, of which at the University of Georgia, I graduated and thought I was going to go work at National Geographic in Washington, D.C. Little did I know that I was going to join a country band and tour the world playing country music for about 10 years. So I had a little bit of a detour, came back to selling technology and bleeding edge technology solutions for the hyperscalers, meaning Microsoft and Google, and eventually landed at Infoworks over the pandemic, where I now help position our 100 plus employees and work with our great partners across 6 different industry verticals, including now construction, in which we work with 1 Degree and Jason.
Awesome. Well, that was like a whole Spark Notes version of your guys' lives for the past, 25 years? Awesome. Well, if you guys haven't heard about One Degree Consulting or Infoworks yet, let me give you guys a little bit of background here. So, Infoworks specializes in, for the purpose of this, construction related dashboards that track what matters most: safety, schedule, quality, fees, and customer experience. They also help companies improve people, processes, performance, and yes, profit. Their solutions measure departmental performance and monitor critical company wide metrics like overhead, buyout efficiency, workforce processes, and profitability, all in real time. Infoworks also is a great partner with One Degree Consulting. And One Degree Consulting provides program management services and fractional COO and CEO consulting services for construction companies. So, all of my listeners out here, if you need some consulting services, please reach out to One Degree Consulting. You'll hear a lot more about what they do today from Jason. But let's go ahead and start it off. I'm going to throw this first question over to Jason and Andrew. I kind of want to hear a little bit about the history of Infoworks and One Degree and kind of how it has evolved since you guys, or since Jason, at least since you first founded it.
Yeah, absolutely. I was get a lot of requests from contractors and subcontractors on how do we measure construction projects? How do we measure the performance of construction projects? Because every company really thinks that they do it differently, and they have their own unique, spin or approach on it. But there's a lot of fundamental building blocks that are the same. And I worked with Andrew on another project prior, and had the opportunity to build a live interactive scorecard for a new client in downtown Nashville. Did an RFP, and Andrew and Chris's firm won it, and we blew the doors off. Did just a great job. So we were like, hey, I think we have something here that the market could really use. So my expertise is the construction and the operational side, and Infoworks expertise, which is a lot more than mine, is the data and the individuals, writing the code, and they make the vision come true in a simple, measurable, live way.
Yeah, well said. I think the reason Jason and I brought this partnership together essentially um, has a lot to do with our history. So our history at Infoworks is we were born out of IBM in the late 90s. And so over the past 28 years, we've worked with almost 400 organizations in and around the Mid-South across healthcare, financial services, retail, manufacturing, and public sector. And really, what we've seen in the past 10 years of just exponential growth in our area is that we're neglecting the industry of E&C, of engineering and construction. And all the great things that Chris Mahaffey, who has been with us, he's a shining example of a consultant within our ranks that has stayed around for almost the entirety of that 28 years, solving complex projects and being a subject matter expert in the area of our data science strategy and management services. We have 4 impactful pillars of service, which are management consulting, technology and strategy implementation, strategy and design for product development, and then that final area that I've already mentioned, data science strategy and management. So when Jason came to us and said, hey, I have this operational mindset. I have this fractional C-suite mindset where I understand how the construction leaders run their businesses. I understand macro and micro themes to what matters to them. And I really think they're not being serviced appropriately through connecting their data and business insights for their data that these other industries take for granted. So we just want to bring that same level of care and that same level of intentionality to servicing this market, especially as we're growing exponentially and building, our the bird, the city bird that I tell my 8-year-old and 9-year-old son is the crane. And so they know that Dad, city bird of Nashville is the crane. We're building like crazy, and we want to be able to service the industry that is just turning our city and transforming it into a really big player in the United States.
Yeah. And, Andrew, you actually brought up a really good point there where, you know, historically, a lot of the construction industry has been disserviced by a lot of different things. And it is such an important industry that we're now seeing, new companies and new partnerships like One Degree and Infoworks kind of come out of that disservice and really come together to be focused on improving the industry. And I mean, we all know construction is such a complex industry. You start looking at the data, you start looking at even payroll, and it's just complexities out the wazoo. So maybe that could be part of the, disservice that we've been facing for so long, but at least it's created partnerships like this that are meant to combat those specific problems.
Exactly right. I think it's important that there's expertise matched with all the technology that's now out there that really allows firms of a certain size, general contractors and subs of a certain size, maybe the mid market, to excel because they may not have that type of talent in house.
Yes, exactly. And, Andrew, you kind of talked a little bit about how InfoWorks serves, a multitude of different industries. So how has, your experience in all of these different sectors kind of informed your approach to construction?
Yeah, I want Chris to weigh in here too, but experience across these highly regulated, operations heavy sectors directly shape how we approach construction. Healthcare industry, for instance, there is literally a slogan within healthcare and healthcare tech, which is let's get the doctors and the providers operating at the top of their license, meaning providing care at the top of their license. They don't want to be in a computer. They don't want to have to be following the disparate or the non-connected data around. They want to have focus on their patients, and they want to cure or care for them, right? So all of the admin tasks get in the way of that. And so we bring a little bit of that understanding into every industry we go to, whereas there's a problem, we lead with the foundational tenets of data architecture and just making sure the data is connected and what's called democratized. It's available for everybody. It's good for everybody. Then we frame up with KPI scorecards. These are key performance indicators, project management rigor, change management rigor. How are we going to do this if we're changing, right? And this all leads to construction specific dashboards that drive the outcomes that are needed for everybody in the organization to work at the top of that license, to do that what they really want to do in their day.
I love that. Chris, do you have anything to add in there as well?
Yeah, and it's less about the verticals of the different lines of business, which does impact things because you find, and I say this as someone who's worked across a number through my career, you find the ability to carry over that knowledge to other areas. But really, I was thinking more along the lines of we span a swath of client sizes. We work with Fortune 50 to companies with 5 people, right? Like, and the reality is because of that, we bring that enterprise experience and planning mindset with us to even our smaller clients. Jason can attest to this. When we were recently working on a lot of my initial questions to them and getting them kind of situated was around, okay, I know you need this today, but are you aware you're going to need to do this and this and this, or that's going to impact this workflow, et cetera? And it was stuff we weren't even directly responsible for. But because of our experience, we knew, hey, if we're going to set you up for success, we need you, we're going to help you get positioned, even if it's not something you're asking us to do directly. So I think when you talk about what do we bring to construction, we bring all of that experience, whether it's different size clients, the different industries, and especially Nashville. We, being based here, we do a lot of healthcare, and as highly regulated as that is, it's so stringent. We can work in these other models pretty easily and adapt.
Yeah. Yeah. And, kind of on the, the other hand of that, with 1 Degree, Jason, you guys are focusing solely on construction.
Yep.
So, how has that kind of approach of really, focusing on one industry and really just deep diving there? How has that, approach been working for you guys at 1 Degree? What have you guys seen kind of in results wise from just doing that?
Well, I'd love to share what our mission is, which is to enhance the lives of those in construction, both at home and at work, 1 degree a day. Behind every construction project, behind every brick that's laid, every documentation, there's a person, right? There's a high turnover in construction. Construction's hard; it's not for everybody, but the majority of the turnover is not because construction is hard. It's because of the culture of the company. In construction, there are projects in downtown Nashville that last 2 or 3 years, right? And look, you can walk on a project, and if you ask somebody's opinion of the health of that project, it could vary from my opinion to if I had a bad weekend and I come in Monday and I walk that job, I could have a completely different opinion. And what 1 Degree and Infoworks are doing now for the industry is able to provide what I call a recipe for clarity is kindness. And I have 3 daughters. My youngest is 16. She's never played football, but she could tell you some KPIs about a football game just looking at what we call a scoreboard. And we've developed that for a much more complicated process on a construction project, and it's really increases the support, but it also challenges the folks to have a clear, concise recipe for how is your construction project, how is your construction people, and how is your construction company? Is it healthy or not? And with their expertise, with many markets, and with my expertise only in one, it's really a team that we can't wait to. This is just a launching pad for us.
Yeah, and I feel that energy, between you guys as well, and what you guys are trying to do together, and it's really inspiring to feel that. And also, I think, what I've really picked up from this, about your guys' partnership is really, you're reducing the complexity behind these projects and really making it human focused again, you know? So that's something I really love to see.
Yeah, you talk a lot about in your other podcast episodes around just taking care of construction industry workers, right? I do think that I don't want to get into automation taking over jobs or anything like that. I've always thought, and we've always thought at InfoWorks, that there's technology for good, that there's data for good. But it has to be wrapped around, and it has to be in the context of really understanding the industry. So we couldn't do that without Jason being that kind of keystone for us, really speaking the language and knowing what matters on job sites, in the boardroom, with the operations folks, with the project managers, and on the software technology platforms themselves, so that we can bring the same thing we bring to the enterprise down to the general contractor and sub level.
Yeah. And that's really what it's all about. That's why we're doing any of this. I know for me personally, it's really about making everyone's lives easier. Damn it, this is a hard job. This is a hard world that we live in. Let's all work together, pick up where each other lack, support each other in what we do well to, not only make their jobs easier, but their lives.
I just need to add this. My personal goal is it's hard to make construction easier, but I do want to make it simpler, and I really want the individuals to give 100% at home and 100% at work. I don't believe in this 50-50, or I know that my wife expects 100% of me, and I am my own boss now, but my people expect 100% of me, right? So, um, you know, providing a measurable way to where people know how they're doing, for some reason, is a foreign concept in construction. But a lot of other industries have that. A lot of other industries have that. So we're proud to help not only construction companies, but uh, the people that do the hard work as well.
Yeah, and this also kind of it trickles down into company culture as well. And the company culture that you guys are building at 1 Degree and at Infoworks, not only just to mirror that with what you're doing with your clients, but also your internal teams as well. And both of you guys, you emphasize being people first. But how does this culture also translate into client success and project delivery? I think that question could go to any three of you guys if you guys want to take a stab at it.
Yeah, I am happy to. So typically in our contracts as a GC or a subcontractor, there's typically very clear language on what success looks like as far as time, schedule, what risks are there. Um, but what doesn't get translated is, how do those carry over to the actual individuals on the job site every day? Um, so, what we're able to do is just make sure that information is passed along, and all that data lives in a software on somebody's computer, whether or not it is an advanced or it's Microsoft Excel, and oftentimes the leadership of the company, even the project manager or the superintendent, something will happen. It's construction, and the question is, how did we get here, or how did we not see this coming? And look, not every situation is black and white, but I'll tell you 9 out of 10 times, the data or the documentation was there or it was lacking. Um, and nobody just has the time to investigate in there. So, working with the leadership of the team and really getting them to define how they define a successful project, a successful person, and then putting that into a simple, measurable, live interactive scorecard, and then giving them access to that. Just like when you're watching a football game, during the entire course of the game, I can log on my phone and see KPIs during the course of the game. It's we want to make it that simple. The airline agency has mastered this. The sports industry has mastered this. Healthcare has mastered this. I mean, I can drive down I-65 and see the wait time in an ER, right?
Jason nailed it, because we often talk about it from a tactical or technical side of developing a culture of analytics with the stakeholders, right? And to Jason's point, clearly defining what it is we want to measure, how we measure it, what's success, and then giving that visibility to the people who are boots on the ground, right? And we often also talk about making your data accessible. You want people to have access and see it. If you've got it stored away in some database or on someone in Excel on someone's machine somewhere, it's not giving you your full value. It may still be doing some good, but the reality is you're not getting all the value you could be. And so yeah, it comes back to that. Let's make it our data actionable. Let's get the insights we need from it, right? And to Jason's point too, when you talk about dashboards or scorecards and stuff, we're trying to make it so that people easily glean the insights that they want and need right away. We don't need to make something convoluted where you need a PhD in mathematics to understand it. We want it to be clear, concise. If you need, we also want to make it self-service. If you need to dig into this doesn't look right or what's going on here, you have it at your fingertips. You can go do it. You're not left asking someone else. So that all goes into our approach for positioning people with their data visualization and storytelling journey.
Chris, I think I have a new term for making all that data easy to read. Caroline proof. And, I think what you guys are talking about, it also probably helps. And Jason, I'm sure you've seen this a million times, probably helps with the communication from the field to the back office as well. There's so much miscommunication from field to back office that this is probably like striking gold.
Yeah. And I can tell you, um, I have seen it also benefit. Um, when I was actually building buildings, we were showing our clients in presentation how we measured ourselves. It was a launching pad. Uh, we didn't even hardly need a business development person because once you start measuring, right, and then you show your results, even when they're not so good, there's just vulnerability, and the world is seeing, wow, this firm really is wanting to improve and actually sharing their results. It it was a launching pad for our people and our business.
Yeah, the vulnerability and transparency goes so far, so far. And kind of just keeping on this topic here, what are some guiding principles that you guys kind of, keep in mind as you navigate complex technology projects and client relationships?
Guiding principles are quality in your data, knowing that there is a lot of legwork to do, no matter if you have Procore, Acumatica, Lumber, Sage, whatever it is, right? You are not just connecting, you're not just building dashboards for these key performance indicators, right? You're connecting platforms and people. And that is 80% of the time. I think Chris will tell you maybe even less than 20% of the time is actually building these glowing, blingy, dashboards and things that you'll actually view, right? To run your business or to run your project. It's all of the plumbing and getting everything together and making sure that it's quality from all of these disparate points of where the data is coming from, to then make sure that that is giving you the right, reliable data insights that you need to run your business.
Definitely. And I kind of, I want to jump in a little bit more and talk a little bit more about the construction industry and kind of, your guys's solutions here with dashboards and everything. So just kind of to kick that off, Andrew, what are some of the industry pain points? And, Jason, I'd love for you to jump in here as well. But, what are some of these pain points that you guys and your partnership solves?
Yeah, I'll be real quick, and I want Jason to kind of double click into this. It's safety, it's schedule, it's quality, and then getting all of that into a single version of the truth. Yeah.
Uh, in construction, there is a high turnover. There are projects in downtown Nashville that are on their fourth and fifth PM and superintendent, right? And as a client and even a subcontractor, if the general contractor has a revolving door of people, it affects the culture on the job, right? And it affects so many things. But the progress, the schedule, yeah, the safety. Um, but I'll tell you, companies that have what I call SOPs, standard operating procedures, or core processes, um, if they have a playbook for how they define success, it's still not good if people leave, but you can reduce um, a lot of the catastrophe right afterwards if you have hey, this is how we handle submittals, RFIs, change orders, uh, contracts, OAC meetings, scheduling meetings, to where it can be somewhat of a plug and play. But that's an inherent problem that a lot of these companies do not have. They don't have standards in place. And if you um, have some people that come from other companies, right? They have their own way of defining success, but it may not align exactly with yours. So that's definitely top of the scorecard. Live data will shine a light on the lack of consistency in processes. But the good side of that is, um, uh, once you do that, Now you know, and you can't unsee that, right? Buyout, or spending contingency, and how much contingency is being spent on a monthly basis or by an individual is such a good factor that all construction companies internally measure. Um, but once you put it on a P&L sheet and you actually track it and measure it, you'd be amazed at where they say what you measure matters, right?
Yes. You know what? And Jason, that's actually so funny. You actually kind of took the next question out of my mouth. Why is it even important for construction companies to track its performance through a scorecard or a dashboard? We've talked about it being, easier, more readable. But why else?
Because inherently, uh, when your leader, when your boss, when you go to a job site, look, if I had a rough night the night before, I may view your project differently. If I only give you an annual review once a year, right? Right, it's just not fair. I'm going to remember things that you have done or haven't done, maybe over a 4 to 6 week period, right? Um, we tend to also remember. I know that I tend to remember um, not quite the story that happened, right, 4 or 5 months ago, or even 9 months ago. So it also sets the expectations for the people that I lead during the course of the year. This is how we will grade you. This is how we grade a project. And lastly, I'll say construction is very competitive, right? Right. And on projects where there's an interview process and the client wants to choose the best contractor, look, I'm going to go in there and try to convince him to hire us. But it's really just based upon my own opinion, which is very biased, right? If I were to show years of data, how I have improved the safety on my project, and not just from me, but even from a third party safety auditor, right? It just validates, right? And it shows proof, it shows documentation, it shows a vulnerability of, hey, this is where we started and this is where we are now.
It's the transparency. It's that open communication that's so important. It really is. Awesome. All right. Let's talk a little bit, about in the industry, we talk about data being so important. Having, that open visibility to the data, really to be able to make all the decisions. So, Chris, I do want to throw a question at you here. I've seen you be waiting so patiently over there. So, Chris, how do you approach data
I'm good.
How do you approach data strategy and analytics to help construction companies make better operational decisions? This can kind of get thrown at Jason as well, but kind of really want to talk about how you guys work together in that.
Yeah, and I'll take again from the technical or tactical side, and say, first of all, every situation is going to be unique. There's, different levels of maturity, but even within the same tiers of maturity, you've got much different positions and situations. First and foremost, you need to understand, how is this organization, what is their maturity, right? How much data are they collecting? What do they have? Are they running their organization off of Excel spreadsheets in an Access database? Or do they have Procore and other enterprise type tools that you can pick up and leverage, right? And it comes back to some things Andrew was touching on earlier too, which is, once you understand what their maturity is, how trustworthy is their data, right? Before we even start jumping to try and do any kind of visualization, scorecards, storytelling, can we trust what we're working with, right? And I know we've probably dropped the term internal plumbing multiple times. That's something we've actually said for years and years and years. And one of the reasons we say that is because no one's really worried about their plumbing for the most part until it doesn't work, right? And then it's the most important thing. And so the reality is we spend a lot of time focused on getting that internal plumbing set up so that you can report on it.
Let me throw it to you first, Jason. So, how do you approach data strategy and analytics to help construction companies make better operational decisions?
Yeah, it really all aligns with um, that construction company or that subcontractor's expectations on the job site. Oftentimes, I'll take a subcontractor, uh, the owner of a cabinet company or a site work company at one time was very good at operating equipment or building cabinets, and before they know it, they've got millions of dollars of revenue and 20 to 30 employees, and they have a business to run. They're not building cabinets anymore or doing site work. They're trying to run a business. So oftentimes I'll just ask the leadership of the business, what are your expectations on um, this scope of work or contracts, or how to handle change orders, submittals, or ordering materials, and I will write that down as they're talking, and then I'll ask them, all right, now I'm going to go ask your employees what their expectation is of what their perception is that your expectation is, and 10 times out of 10 times those just don't align. They just don't align. There'll be some similarities, but they just don't align. And um, when something happens and they're upset, and how did we get here, and how did I let this happen? It's just there's not clear expectation. So that's where SOPs can come in um, handy. But just trying to write down on a piece of paper and then have a live interactive scorecard uh, uh, to give that person literally a score. On the scorecards that we've done, there's 7 or 8. There could be more, but normally there's 7 or 8 attributes of a healthy project. Um, Financial, schedule, uh, um, safety. There's a number of them, but adding all those up and it giving a total score has been really helpful. And then you would not believe the how difficult it is just to get someone to agree upon a definition, because it the it they want it to change, and it's difficult when a definition of something just continues to change. So it can change or it can improve over time. Um, but there are stats out there on Major League Baseball players, right? Football players, and there are stats out there on Delta Airlines, but they all have the same thing that we have to deal with. It's labor, it's weather, it's materials, right? It's people, right? All of our decisions would be so much better if we didn't have to deal with people, right? So, so every industry really has the same constraints and issues, and just if you can find a way to measure them in a clear, consistent manner, to give the people on the other side of our leadership um, visibility. Yeah, it seems like a magic trick, but it's really not. And I'll tell you, once that is done, what I have found is those companies, they just inherently, their revenues go up, their retention goes up or down depending upon how you look at it. Even the subcontractors have a better experience with the general contractors that do that. Their clients do. Um, yeah.
I love that. I want to throw that to Chris too as kind of, a technical answer there to get really both sides. But Chris, how do you approach the data strategy and analytics to help construction companies make those better operational decisions? We've heard it from the construction POV. Now I want the data analyst POV.
Yeah, I think it all starts with understanding the maturity of the organization when it comes to their data. Um, and even within the different tiers of their maturity, you can have, varying positions or complexities. And the reality is, this is all a part of trying to position everyone to do what they're best at and to be successful, right? So, there's some of the things that are going to be complex that we want to be handling in the back end and in the internal plumbing, as you hear us commonly refer to it. And once we've got that there, we want to understand, what is the level of data quality we have, right? Is this data trustworthy? Because we don't need to start trying to give visibility and transparency to things that we can't trust or correct, right? We're going to be shining a spotlight, but we want to know that the conclusions we're making are correct conclusions, right? Good or bad, right? And so, once we've got that and we're assured of that from a strategy perspective, we'll move into, making things visible and accessible to everyone. And then from that point, you start launching off into your, more advanced areas that, for mature organizations, they can start looking at things like AI or machine learning or things like that. But the reality is, even at times when people try to tell you you can run before you crawl, you really do you got to set that foundation. And so that, and as we've been doing a lot more in the construction industry, that's what we're seeing. We're seeing a lot of varying degrees of maturity, and organizations that some might be running their business off Excel and Access. Others got enterprise level tools, things like Procore, et cetera, and they're much better positioned from a data perspective to jump in and start doing some of those more advanced steps. The other ones can still do it. They've just got to position themselves a little to get into some more scalable architecture.
Definitely, definitely. And Chris, I have to ask this. What role does AI have in all of this? How the hell can we automate some of this?
Well, evidently that's like $1 trillion question these days. And the reality is there's so many different ways you can approach that and answer that. I mean, we all probably find ways that we're using it individually, whether it's in our own workflows, our work, career, professional, home lives, what have you. I think when we, shine a light more into how does that fit into your data strategy, I think that's where you start looking at things like what are maybe some quick wins where we can do some like natural language querying type stuff, whether we can build some like quick start stuff that helps start the bid process a lot quicker and give us more reliability and more insight, et cetera. Once you get a little more advanced and can maybe start bringing in external sources that you don't have naturally in your data, then you can start getting to some really neat and exciting things with some of the machine learning and developing your own models that might go around things like the predictive nature of some of your of bids or things you need to account for in some of your projects, right? Taking into account the weather patterns and other things that might not be built into your plan naturally. But again, it all kind of comes back to there's a million opportunities. You've got to position yourself so you can even start entertaining some of them.
Yes. Yeah, you have to, set up. I mean, it's so cheesy, but the foundation is so important in construction for your tech, for your data. You also need that strong foundation. So that was my dad joke of the day. You all are very welcome for that.
You know, Caroline, as a contractor, the hardest way to learn that is if you're sitting across from an attorney, and the attorney starts asking you questions about, well, hey, when was this approved, or when was this not approved, or when did you order this? Why did you make this decision? And the person that made it is no longer with the company. And you're having to go back and look at emails and text, and that's no way. It's a very expensive way. So you only have to do that a couple times to realize I need a, a term I have learned is clean data, and actually defining clean data. And the enterprise level construction programs have done a great job of that, where it's the statuses, approved or revised and resubmit or rejected, or the statuses are how I have found in defining those statuses where your people are logging in, in the correct status, just like the airline agency has statuses, right? Standby, and baseball has the batter's box and you're on deck. Like it's the same principles. It's just defining uh, where you are and whose ball the court is in.
Exactly. I'm sensing, Jason, either you want to go traveling or you want to go to a ball game.
There's so many similarities, and construction is inherently, years behind every other industry. They just is.
Yeah, and we're talking about, all of these amazing dashboards and views that you can give to your customers. And, this is all amazing in theory, of course, what isn't. But now I really want to hear from you guys how this is actually playing out in real life, the real, effects of your guys' partnership. So, Jason and Chris, can you guys share either, an example or a case study where you guys have helped a construction company transform its operations through this data and technology?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll tell you the project that we just finished. A local contractor in downtown Nashville. Um, I think they're going on 75 years of age. The CEO had a vision of building a dashboard or scorecard. Had actually written it on a piece of paper, like a vision of his. He had been wanting to figure out how to do it for about 3 years. We did it in like 6 weeks. So and he's not the only one that has that vision of how do I put all this data in multiple softwares into one scorecard, and even at the end of a project, compare how we estimated it to how we actually, built the job. And there's so many lessons learned, and he recognized that. But look, clients come first, and employees come first, and you're running a business, and you're like, I don't. They don't have an overhead position that strictly handles data. How do we do this? So that's where, quite frankly, I didn't have the expertise. Infoworks had the expertise, and it was specifically Chris and Andrew who came in and asked the right questions and started digging on on their data. And 6 weeks later, there was this really good looking scorecard that's going to help their people and the company, and I would argue that their clients are going to demand more of them.
Yeah. Chris, I'd love to hear about that experience from you.
Yeah, I mean, it was fantastic. And it was really great working with Jason on that. The reality is he made everything so easy. And what was probably one of the most telling things to me about the engagement, because you asked about how it impacts the company, is, we're going through the process of collaborating with them, digging into where they want to get information, things like that. And it's all the non-technical stuff that you can really see the impact and how it resonates, right? We go to define something, and as Jason pointed out earlier, everyone's got their own thoughts. But once you finally get them in a room, say, hey, we're putting something on the screen, these number of people are going to be seeing it, and that's how we're going to measure things. Then you start getting you start getting everyone on the same page, and here's what we're going to do. And we saw too, as we were doing that, we would work with the key stakeholders that were tasked with giving us access, doing things, etc. And we'd bring things to them. All of a sudden, they start realizing, oh, there's some things we might need to do to improve this process. Oh, there's some other things over here, or maybe it's not as clear, or had people asking, hold it, where did that come from? And you mentioned, oh, that's pulled up from this system. What, we're doing this in that system instead of this. And the reality is it was less about the scorecard and more about helping them improve their workflow and their business operations. The scorecard was giving a spotlight.
Yeah, definitely eliminating the redundancy. Is that what you're going to say, Jason? Oh, yeah, 100%. And, sometimes even, finding a solution for one problem brings up 10 other ones, but it's like they wouldn't have been able to find those 10 other ones. And that would have all still been a mystery, if we hadn't had that same visibility that we do now.
Yep, I will tell you in my experience, there's nothing typical about this, but typically when a firm launches this initiative and a scorecard and they begin to measure what I say, inside their own four walls, right? Not only their people and their culture and the accountability will rise, but typically their net profits will increase around 1% just just by improving their own workflows, their own processes. You don't even have to go get more work, just becoming more efficient, right? Um, and you'd be amazed. I was with a firm where we grew from 50 million to 500 million, right? And overhead grows and people grow and people have new ideas, but it is a little bit more difficult to control, right? At that size. So having processes in place and procedures, and I've been involved in projects that are upwards of $250 million and 3 years long. So you really have to have some stringent processes and procedures in order to have what I say reliable data, so I can make reliable promises.
Definitely. And I think it's just so important for now, and also for, thinking of the future of the industry too. As you said, our industry is notoriously 10, 15 years behind every other industry. So, we're finally catching up on the technology, on the AI, on all of that. And Andrew, I kind of want to look to you here and say, what does this partnership, kind of, what's it going to evolve to with all the different technologies, all the different things happening in construction right now? Kind of, where do you see this partnership going to help best serve your clients?
Yeah, I think history repeats itself a bit, and it seems very similar to about 15 years ago in cloud computing technology, where we saw digital transformation really proliferate or spread across an industry. And all that means is it's the confluence of people, process, and technology coming together to transform your business into something you never thought possible. uh, Operational efficiency, happier people, happier clients. That's what digital transformation is supposed to be. And so, as you think about intentionality in what you provide for E&C, engineering and construction, you want to bring that same intentionality of digital transformation that you've brought over from other industries into this industry and say, okay, it's about your people, it's about your process and your workflows that then you start to discovering how to be more efficient and how to make better. And it's the technology and the data that weaves together to really transform your business. And so that's where it goes, but it starts small. And you can't do that. You can't skip a rung in the ladder. You have to go one ladder and one piece of scaffolding by one piece of scaffolding. And that and yeah, and to your point, that's how you do it. All it is, history repeating itself, it's digital transformation. But it's digital transformation in the way that will actually be adopted and will stick.
Well, I mean, adoption's, a whole nother issue here. I feel like the industry is very split. We have the people who are very technology forward, who really see the value in this. And then, there's still a lot of people out there, and, technology might not be their thing. They've done it for X amount of years this way, and why do I need to change? So, maybe I'll throw this one at you, Jason. How do we deal with, those owners, those executives that, change and technology is just not their jam?
And it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be to have a successful construction project. Um, uh, but I will tell you that uh, I think 10 out of 10 people want to know, what are your expectations of me? I keep saying clarity is kindness, right? So once I show them, hey, um, if you don't want to use this technology, or to your benefit, that's fine. That's your choice. But this is how we as a company, or this is how we as a group have defined success, which is these 7 or 8 attributes. And I will tell you that once that gauge starts to, um, you know, turn yellow or even turn red, or go out of green, uh, uh, people tend to, what I say, we want to motivate the right behavior, right? So on a construction project, if the window is leaking, But if I have a piece of rubber base that is not glued on the wall, I want to tend to the window that's leaking and not the rubber base, right? So priorities and communicating what is more important, no matter if you don't like technology or not. Everybody wants to know, are you for you, Caroline, or are you for me? And in order for me to figure out if you are for me, are you clear on your expectations? Certainly if you're my leader.
I'd hope so. Awesome. Well, great job, guys. I think, I really want to end it out here with probably the toughest question I'm going to give you guys today. And also for any of my viewers, any of my listeners, if there's anything you should take from this podcast, you should record these next 5 minutes here. So, guys, for construction owners looking to improve their business and operational efficiency, what are 3 practical steps or advice other than calling one degree in Infoworks that they should do? Toughest, but most important. So, Chris, why don't I throw this to you to be our first little victim here for this question?
Oh, wow. I'm going to bring it back to something that was discussed earlier is as a generalization, the construction industry is a bit behind where some other lines of businesses are when it comes to embracing some of the technologies and their data. I think given that, that's something that's got to happen today, right? Is understanding the value you have there. There's so many other industries that have a service, but are also now data organizations. Like their data, the value of their data is such a commodity that they don't even just view themselves as providing the service that they provide. They view themselves as a data or company, right? And I think you're going to find that that's going to be something that starts bleeding in as well, and that those who embrace it will be the ones who take off and are able to navigate the new order of things as we integrate these AI and machine learning into our companies and how we do business. So anyway, I'll give you that one and let Andrew jump on one.
Oh, great. We should end with Jason on this, for sure. So 3 practical steps. And great question for Infoworks, because we are the firm that comes with practical solutions. That literally is our tagline. So in terms of practical solutions for construction owners looking to improve business and operational efficiency, I think what is 1% top line revenue or 1% additional margin worth to you? And I will say fortune favors the bold. Typically, right now, your competitors are not doing this. And now more than ever, it's more easy, more simple, and faster to do it today than any other time in history. Just need some good help. So I would say understand the opportunity in front of you. Be bold. Don't wait. Sit on your hands and get yourself some expertise.
Honestly, Andrew, for a minute there, I thought you were going to say step 1, call Infoworks. Step 2, call Infoworks. Step 3, call Infoworks.
I'll save that for the next one when we dive into the next round.
All right, Jason, let's hear it.
Yeah, I do want everybody to hear that our goal is to consult our way out of consulting. We understand that we won't be your partner forever, but that is our goal as a partner. But here's 3 things that I would tell you if you don't hear anything else. There's so many items that you measure on a daily basis. Your financing, recipes, even this podcast, we're over by 56 seconds, right? It was supposed to be an hour long. Fuel, time, you measure everything, right? Survey your people and ask them to define how the company measures the project, the person, and the company. Those are your three things: the project, the person, which is themselves, and the company. And ask them to literally define it. And if everybody's answers align with yours, you don't need us. If you can measure those attributes for the project, the person, and the company, you don't you don't need us. And if the answers are different and you can't measure them, give us a call.
I love that. And this has been an amazing episode. Kind of before we sign off here, I do want to give you guys, a little bit of time here to get some last comments in. Andrew can sit here and tell you guys to call Infoworks 3 times over and over again. Yeah, I
Will
would
we
love.
appear if you do that? It's like rubbing the genie bottle.
I
You say
mean, I
that
am putting all the links in the description, so I could put it down there 3 times, and we'll see if the magic works.
like Beetlejuice.
Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice.
This is the Halloween episode, so it's like
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So that'll be our tagline here is Infoworks, Infoworks, Infoworks. Awesome. But if you guys want to just go ahead and go around and give your last thoughts here, just anything to tie this up here.
I will add that what we are proposing here, it's not snake oil. We're not making this up. This stuff really, really works. It really works. You do have to be bold. I love what Andrew said, bold to shine the light on what's not working. But the reality is, if I want to get better, if I want to get healthier, it starts with me. I've got to make decisions and have wisdom and vision, but I have to have courage. And that's the hardest part. Just listening to this podcast will not make your business better or your people better. You actually have to have courage and do something about it. So the way it would work is you would contact either myself or Andrew. We would come to your office, come do an interview with you and figure out what systems you use, what processes you use, what technology. Ask a couple questions. We would give you a proposal that would be a team proposal, even with the schedule. As soon as we have an agreement in place, we would be off to the races with your key leadership and begin to improve your projects, your people, and your company.
Awesome. Andrew, Chris, who wants to take it next?
I think Jason did a great job of summarizing it. The reality is, while we're not in the construction industry, a lot of, specifically what we do is very relatable to it, right? I mean, we talked about foundation throughout. We do project-based solutions. We're there to help guide you and get you what you need. We're happy to be a partner and come back if you need us. You're ready for round 2 of something, you're ready to improve upon something else, etc. But we're there to help you go through that in the same way they help their clients get to where they need to be. And so and the reality is, you just want to position everyone to be successful, do what they're best at. And so that's what we're really talking about and being focused on, and not being afraid to take that step. The courage that Jason and Andrew had been speaking to. There's a lot of opportunity, and it's amazing how much some of this resonates with the stakeholders, with the leadership. You can get everyone on the same page, moving in lockstep, and it just improves your entire organization and leads to profitability. So.
Awesome. Any last comment?
Well said. No, not at all. These guys have made it.
Awesome. I mean, that's why we invited them, right? To do the talking for us. Awesome. Well, we are going to go ahead and put all of the websites and emails down below for Jason, Andrew, and Chris. So if you guys have any comments, any questions, feel free to reach out to them. But just another huge thank you to all 3 of you for being here today. This conversation was great. I love having you guys here, and I am ready for our next night out in Nashville. When is it?
Yeah, it is sooner than later. And
yeah,
at that point, we can probably send out a promo to your listeners for a data readiness and scorecard fit session.
Oh, yeah.
Free of charge. 1 hour workshop, free of charge on InfoWorks time.
Well, you heard it here first. Awesome. And thank you guys all so much for tuning in to today's episode of CO Pod. I'm your host, Caroline, and I'll see you all next time.